Good evening, this is STV News. At the cabinet meeting on the 11th, the government decided to spend 385.6 billion yen on reserve fund for measures against the new coronavirus to make up for the budget shortage of the GOTO travel campaign, which stimulates tourism demand. 311.9 billion yen was allocated, and 73.7 billion yen was allocated for repayment of extraordinary special benefits to low-income single-parent households. The government, in additional economic measures determined in 8 days, promotion and to-go business, we have incorporated the same benefits, repayment of 50,000 yen to the prospect of the end of the year. The first and second supplementary budgets have secured a total of 11.5 trillion yen in corona-related reserve funds, and the remaining amount is approximately 6.9 trillion yen. The government's new coronavirus infection control subcommittee chairman, Shigeru Omi, chairman of the Japan Community Healthcare Organization, held a meeting in Tokyo on the morning of the 11th. Given that the number of newly infected people in Japan has been at the record high. The policy is to put together a proposal calling for the suspension of tourism support measures, GOTO travel, in areas where the infection has spread. We will also discuss the implementation system for vaccination of the new corona scheduled after the beginning of the year. At the beginning, Yasutoshi Nishimura, the minister in charge of economic revitalization, pointed out that we must avoid the tight medical conditions in areas where the infection is spreading. In the subcommittee stage 3, where the infection status is the second most serious of the 4 stages, is further classified into 3 of this. The direction is to demand the suspension of the travel business in areas where infection remains high and areas where infection continues to spread. More than 2 weeks have passed since the government called for intensive measures in order to prevent the spread of the new corona. However, such as medical care system in Hokkaido and Osaka Prefecture is tight. It does not stand still the prospect of infection convergence. Asahikawa City, Hokkaido, where the spread of the new coronavirus continues. The outbreak of infected people occurred one after one in Core Hospital, and the suspension of outpatients clinic and postponement of surgery began to affect general patients. Even with the support of the self-defense forces, there is not enough manpower, and concerns about the collapse of medical care are becoming reality. In Asahikawa City, which has a population of about 300,000, a cluster group of infected people of more than 200 people has occurred at Asahikawa Welfare Hospital and Keiyuka Yoshida Hospital since November. The number of infected people in the city has increased by more than 600 in the last month. According to the city, as of the 10th, 247 people were infected at the Welfare Hospital and 201 people were infected at Yoshida Hospital, both of which restricted the acceptance of outpatient treatment. At first, the city was cautious about the request from Yoshida Hospital to dispatch the self-defense forces. However, the hospital side criticized the city, saying that the request was rejected and caused the spread of the infection, and finally decided to request the dispatch. The government decided to dispatch the self-defense forces on the 8th, and 10 nurses will be divided into 2 teams and will be active at Yoshida Hospital. However, Hirohisa Yamashita, chairman of the Asahikawa Medical Association, pointed out that 20 people are needed for each core hospital. It is said that some nurses retired due to the stress, expressing a sense of crisis in the acceleration of labor shortages. At the cabinet meeting on the morning of the 11th, the government will decide on 5-year acceleration measures for disaster prevention, mitigation, and national resilience. The period is 5 years from 2021, and the total project cost is about 15 trillion yen. We will hurry to prepare for severe storms and floods and large earthquakes and to take measures against aging infrastructure. Prior to the cabinet meeting, the National Resilience Promotion headquarters will be open at the Prime Minister's office. This is the successor plan to the current 3-year emergency measures that will expire at the end of FY 2008. The total project cost for the 3 years from FY 18 is about 7 trillion yen, and the new measures will exceed this. About 12.3 trillion yen will be allocated to disaster countermeasures, such as embankment strengthening and dam maintenance, and about 2.7 trillion yen will be allocated to repairing aging roads and sewers. In addition, about 200 billion yen will be invested in promoting digitalization to improve the prediction accuracy of the linear precipitation zone that causes heavy rainfall. Former Minister of Education, Culture, Sports, Science and Technology, Ryoshi Onoya, chairman of the Liberal Democratic Party project team on the Science Council of Japan, met with Shinji Inoue, Minister of Science and Technology, at the Cabinet Office of the 11th and handed him a proposal on what the Science Council should be. Incorporating such the prospect September 2023 in the independent new organization, the recommendations require the government to decide a concrete system within a year regarding the selection method of members, a way other than the recommendation by members, such as a third-party organization, is necessary. On the 10th, the government formulated the Infrastructure System Overseas Expansion Strategy that sets new goals for infrastructure export support by domestic companies and overseas economic cooperation. Aim for infrastructure export orders of 34 trillion yen in 2025. In response to the global trend of decarbonization, we will promote joint development not only with exports but also with partner countries regarding the utilization of hydrogen and carbon dioxide, recovery reuse technology, which are effective in reducing greenhouse gases both inside and outside Japan. It will lead to the realization of economic growth and decarbonization. Chief Cabinet Secretary Katsunobu Kato said at the Keiko Infrastructure Strategy Conference held on the same day. In addition to corona response and digital reform, the realization of a green society is the most important issue at present, triggered by the spread of the new coronavirus infection. In July, the government announced a policy to tighten export requirements for coal-fired power plants with high CO2 emissions, which was included in this strategy. It also announced that it would focus on corona support and utilize digital technology and data. The yen exchange rate on the Tokyo foreign exchange market rose on the morning of the 11th and remained around 104 yen per dollar. Yen buying a dollar selling became dominant due to the rapid increase in the number of new unemployed insurance applications in the United States. As of 11 a.m., the yen has strengthened and the dollar has weakened to 103.99 to 99 yen, 48 yen higher than the previous day. The Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communications announced on the 11th that it will establish an internship system in 2021 to experience the activities of the Regional Revitalization Cooperation Team, have them engage in the work of the cooperative team for a period of 2 weeks to 3 months. We will seize the opportunity of increasing interest in migration due to the spread of the new coronavirus infection and support the flow of people to rural areas. Regular members have been working on regional revitalization by moving from urban areas to rural areas for 1 to 3 years. The number of members in FY 2007 was 5,503, and the government has set a goal of increasing it to 8,000 in FY 2012. The local government will recruit internship, and the activity is expected to start as early as next summer. The period is shorter than usual, so students can take a long vacation without taking a leave of absence. The aim is to have people have a concrete image of life in rural areas and to increase the number of applicants for regular members. Okayama Prefecture announced on the 11th that bird flu that occurred at the poultry farm in Mimasaka City was found to be highly pathogenic with a high fatality rate. To prevent the spread of the infection, all about 640,000 birds will be slaughtered. The slaughter of bird flu that occurred this year is one of the largest in Japan. The infection at the poultry farm was the first in the prefecture this year and spread to 9 prefectures nationwide. According to Okayama Prefecture, a positive reaction was confirmed in a simple bird flu test conducted after receiving a notification from the poultry farm on the afternoon of the 10th that chickens are dead. A genetic test revealed that there was a strong suspicion of highly pathogenicity in the early morning of the 11th. The prefecture requested the self-defense forces to dispatch a disaster and began calling. We also asked for restrictions on the movement of the chickens and eggs to poultry farms within a 10 kilometers radius. Ryo Shionoya, based on education, culture, sports, science, and ministers of the Liberal Democratic Party project team, chair on the conduct of the Science Council of Japan, met in 11 days. Shinji INOUE, Science and Technology Minister, and the Cabinet Office was independent from the government in prospect September 2023. I handed over a proposal centered on making it a new organization. Mr. INOUE, referring to the self-reform plan presented by the Science Council within the year, emphasized that I would like the Science Council to consider the desired form, including disconnecting it from the national institutions. The recommendations require the government to design a concrete system within a year. Regarding the selection method of members, a way other than the recommendation by members, such as third-party organization, is necessary. At around 8:27 a.m. on the 11th, there was an earthquake whose epicenter was in Satsuma, district of Kagoshima Prefecture, and shaking with a seismic intensity of 3 was observed in Minamata City, Kumamoto Prefecture, and Nagashima Town, Kagoshima Prefecture. According to the Japan Meteorological Agency, the depth of the epicenter is about 20 kilometers. The magnitude of the earthquake is estimated to be 3.7. The seismic intensity of each major area is as follows. Seismic intensity 3, Minamata City, Kumamoto Prefecture, Nagashima Town, Kagoshima Prefecture. Seismic intensity 2, Ashikita Town, Kumamoto Prefecture, Akune City, Kagoshima Prefecture. Hiroshi Kajiyama, Minister of Economy, Trade and Industry, announced at the press conference after the cabinet meeting on the 11th that he would meet with the Federation of Electric Power Companies of Japan, Federation of Electric Power Companies, which is organized by electric power companies, on the 17th. It is expected that the Federation of Electric Power Companies of Japan will receive a report on the joint use on the interim storage facility for spent nuclear fuel in Mutsu City, Aomori Prefecture, by the companies that own the nuclear power plants. The facility in Mutsu City is operated by Recycled Fuel Storage, which is funded by TEPCO Holdings and others, and is aiming to start operations next year. The Federation of Electric Power Companies of Japan will allow electric power companies to use the facilities of Mutsu City by paying usage fees in order to support Kansai Electric Power Company Incorporation, which is requested by Fukui Prefecture to indicate candidates' site for interim storage facilities outside the prefecture. Over the restart of nuclear power plants, I am considering a plan to make it. Atkins, general manager of the U.S. Major League Baseball Blue Jays, responded to an online interview on the 10th about professional baseball giant Tomoyuki Sugano and Nippon Ham Kohei Arihara, aiming to transfer with posting system. He said, "We started researching the transfer market and players very early on and are ready to go." Pitcher Shun Yamaguchi joined the Blue Jays last year and posting. Local Canadian media reports that the team is still interested in acquiring players from the Japanese and Korean leagues this season. The World Anti-Doping Agency, WADA, released a 2018 report on doping violations on the 10th, excluding the number of violations by country, region from major international competitions such as the Tokyo Olympics for 4 years. The highest number was 144 in Russia, Italy, France, India, Ukraine, the United States follow, and Japan rank is 51st with 8 cases. The number of violations was 1,923, an increase of 6.5% from the previous year. By competition, bodybuilding was the most common with 261 cases, followed by bicycle 221 and athletics 193. The International Olympic Committee IOC has raised the 5th highest number of weightlifters, 157, for which doping is rampant. In recent years, WADA has strengthened its crackdown by setting up a dedicated window for whistleblowers, but the number of violations has not changed significantly since 2013, highlighting the depth of the doping culture. The quarterfinal that entered the penalty shootout, Iniesta was the first in Kobe, swing the injured right leg and shake the goal net. Immediately after, the virtuoso, who has distorted with pain, said, "Our captain's first decision led to the victory. All 6 people succeeded after this. As if they inherited their obsession, I finally settled." Iniesta, who was injured in the first round of the final tournament on the 7th, started on the bench. It was a match in which the overall strength of the team was questioned. The opponent sent off due to a foul in the middle of the first half and caught up with the FK obtained there, but he could not take advantage of the situation from here. Attack 10 Suwon, who pull and protect themselves. Douglas couldn't decide the best opportunity to get from the mistake of the opponent DF in the extra time. Coach Miura said, "Even if there is only one opponent, it is difficult to play football because it is difficult to compete." Even so, he sent Iniesta, who was clearly not in good shape, in the latter half of the extra time and won the penalty shootout to enter the top 4. Will the victory gained after a difficult battle create further unity? 2 more wins until the club's long-cherished Wish Asia champion, Yamaguchi emphasized, "I want to fight as a team." On the 11th, the Japan Racing Association announced the frame order of 18 horses running in the 72nd Hanshin Juvenile Phillies 13th Hanshin Race Course 1600 M turf by a 2-year-old mare and has won 3 consecutive victories since its debut. Sodashi, who is trying to win the GI for the first time as a white-haired horse, entered the 3rd frame and 6th. Mikael, who won all 3 races by winning the Fantasy Stakes in November, started from number 18 in 8 slots. And that's all for today. See you next week for another news update.